Okay. Hello and good afternoon. My teammates and I have created a bill to accomplish reducing military spending. In order to reduce the tremendous amount of money spent on military-related expenses, the nuclear weapon arsenal must be reduced. Also, reducing the size of our Army, which is currently at 1.1 million people, will also help to reduce spending. This plan will also help to reform military compensation. By reducing the nuclear weapons arsenal, we mean reducing by more than half of the current spending involving nuclear weaponry. There are currently 2,000 active weapons, as well as all spending and storage needs to be reduced. By reducing the current enlistment size to more than half, our plan will help reduce the size of current service members enlisted in solely the Army, therefore reduce our military spending. Our national debt has only increased from military spending and will continue to increase unless our money spent on weapons is reduced, the size of our Army is reduced, and military compensation is lowered. Speaking of military compensation, did you know the average cash income of officers and enlisted men is some 80% higher than civilians with similar skills and education? Or that after 20 years of being in non-combat personnel, one could retire with pension, whereas civilians now must often work well into their 60s or 70s. The United States is in over $16.7 billion of debt as of yesterday. When you consider our population being roughly 315 million people, which means each citizen's share of this debt is $53 million, including every single one of us in this room. Our bill will help reduce military spending and help accomplish the most effective plan of coming to an agreement, and not only decreasing our national debt, but also to save our country from economic collapse. I'll pass.
Thank you very much.
Where did you find your sources for the 80% higher than civilians with the same skill set, and that, like, sources like that? And
I found that on a link from our bill on Wikipedia.
So you were saying that officers and soldiers get paid better than average civilians, right?
In some cases, yes.
Well, I mean, doesn't that make sense? I mean, they're putting their lives on the line. Shouldn't they be getting a little more bang for their buck?
Well, how about if they're not currently over at seas and active? How about if they're at home but still in the Army but they're not doing anything?
A National Guard also gets
10
paid
seconds
more
remain.
on average, and they're rarely in harm's way.
Still, at any moment, they could be plunged into danger, risking their lives.
So then that's when they're...
Thank you very much, Representatives Lamboli and Berryman. Now ends our cross-examination time. Negative team, you have 30 seconds to prepare for your first constructive, and that preparation time starts now. And our preparation time has ended. Negative team, I'll open the floor to a 3-minute constructive against the bill. Have I such a speech? Yes. Representative Hovius, the floor is yours. You may start now.
We can all remember 9/11, and we are living in a post-9/11 world. Our country is made safer by increased security and threat assessments. These are made possible by military spending. Many of our military's missions are as peacekeepers. As such, the United States is tasked with being a world superpower. Our powerful military and modern weaponry often acts as a deterrent for rogue nations to obtain and use nuclear weapons. Reducing the size of our military personnel or the number of nuclear weapons will undermine our ability to act as effective peacekeepers. Furthermore, reducing compensation for our soldiers may lead to inability to retain soldiers at a higher rank. This will have a strong detrimental effect on the leadership of our military. Our troops will also suffer if we cut military spending. We won't be able to develop cutting-edge technology to defend them. Soldiers will suffer from bullets penetrating their armor. To stop this, the federal government needs to spend more on protection. Above all, we should stay committed to support our troops who guarantee our freedom and liberty.
Thank you very much. At this moment in time, we'll open the floor to an affirmative cross-examination of this constructive. Affirmative team, you have 1 minute. Time starts now.
First, I'd like to ask, you said that a lot of the spending is needed to help keep the country safe, correct? All right. Well, overall, America right now has roughly 5,000 total nuclear warheads, active and inactive. And actually, General James Cartwright, who was a commander for a portion of the U.S. Department of Defense, estimates that only roughly 800 of those would be needed to deter other countries. And that would save roughly $120 billion over the next decade. Also, on top of that, the military has met or exceeded its retention goals every year since 2006, showing that the military compensation is more than just.
10 seconds remain.
That is all.
Anyone else? Excellent. Affirmative team, you have 30 seconds to prepare for your second constructive. Your preparation time starts now. Ten seconds remain in preparation time. Our preparation time has now ended. We will open the floor to a 3-minute constructive and affirmative of the bill. Have I such a speech?
Right.
Representative Hamilton, the floor is yours. You may begin now.
As our bill states, all aspects of the military spending will have to be done by the U.S. government, the Department of Defense, and the President mostly. The Department of Defense and President will have to go through the plan of reducing over half of our nuclear warheads, which we have 2,000 active or 5,000 total nuclear warheads. And part of the plan is to reduce half of it, which if we reduce to 800 total warheads, we could save up to $120 billion over the next decade. The next part of the plan is to reduce the size of our Army, which we have right now 1.1 million active forces for 300 million people. And to compare that is China with 2.1 million active forces for 1.34 billion people, which they have a 1.4 times more active forces, but 4 times people. And we're solely talking about the Army, not the Marines, Navy, or anything else. But if we were to reduce our enlisted by half or so, we could save up to $200 billion over the next 10 years. And lastly, reducing or reforming the military compensation costs us about $180 billion a year to compensate for our veterans and enlisted men, which is a third of the Pentagon's budget. And if we reduce that, we save a lot more money. And if we keep going at this rate, by 2039, the Pentagon, the military reformation that we have will equal the Pentagon's budget in 2039, which is outlandish. We should cut that. Every service member earns over $5,000 more a year than comparatively qualified civilians. Lowering this to match the employment cost index could save over $15 billion in the next 5 years. So that is our plan to cut military spending.
You have 20 seconds. Would you like to continue?
Good.
Excellent. Very good. At this moment in time, we will open up the floor to a negative cross-examination of this constructive. Negative team, you have 1 minute to cross-examine. Your time starts now.
All right. So you're saying that military compensation is at $180 billion, correct?
Yes, roughly.
And that you want to reduce that to even a smaller number.
Yes.
Yeah. That is crazy. I believe this number needs to increase because as of now, lots and lots of vets are not receiving the care and treatment that they need because many of them are going with undiagnosed PTSD, and right now 22 veterans a day are committing suicide, and
Okay.
that is more.
I understand that, but
That is
from
more.
personal experience, my grandpa was ashamed of what happened to him, and he didn't want to come forward and talk about his PTSD. That's why he didn't get help.
They need counselors. They need
It's there. It's,
And on top of
it's
There are
part of
more
it.
soldiers
They
killing
have to go and
themselves.
do it.
10
than
seconds
the enemy
remain.
is killing them. They're coming home and they are putting bullets in their heads instead of being shot by.
I understand.
Taliban.
They have to talk about it. They can't be just
And on
pulled in
top
and
of
forced
that,
to talk about it.
reformation could help pay for more of that. 'cause
Representatives
currently-
Walsh, Hamilton, and Lamboli, thank you very much. Negative team, you have 30 seconds to prepare for your second constructive. Your preparation time starts now. Awesome cross-examination, you guys. That's great. Really good. 10 seconds remain in preparation. And this ends our negative preparation time. Negative team, we will open the floor to a 3-minute constructive against this bill. Have I such a speech?
Yes, you do.
Representative Peel, the floor is yours. You may begin now.
There are other places that debt can be cut. It can't be cut from the military. No nation will attack America because we are the highest spending country and have the best military, the best technology, and other things. Hitler wouldn't have attacked Poland if Poland would have had a military like ours. Also, the military creates jobs. If people who are unemployed, or imagine people who are unemployed now, and more soldiers coming home, and even raising the unemployment rate further. Also, if you would be unemployed if the troops were home. Also, if you have studied military history as we had, you would also know that the United States sells their old technology to lesser countries. This is another reason military spending cannot be cut. We must develop the world's best technology to stay at the top, and then sell our old technology when we are done. Also, most importantly, with the cutting of military spending, America would be left vulnerable to terrorist attack. When Saddam Hussein threatened the United States with weapons of mass destruction, the military invaded Iraq in 21 days and defeated the organized opposition called the Republican Guard. Also, on the nuclear front, we need to protect ourselves from unstable countries such as North Korea or Iran. The numbers of nuclear weapons aren't the problem. North Korea's thirst for power is the problem. They'll do anything that they can to establish themselves. Also, there are things that are called anti-air missiles, and they are built to shoot down nuclear weapons out of the sky. Recently, a test was underwent in California, and only 9 of 17 missiles were shot down. 8 made it through. So our defense system definitely isn't good enough to defend our home soil. So we should keep our nuclear weaponry the same as it is now to establish ourselves as a threat. Also, China is said to be our ally, but at the same time, it was published in a Georgetown study that they have been secretly increasing their nuclear arsenal. The study was called Strategic Implications of China's Underground Great Wall, and they were said to have been housing a tunnel network that is 3,000 miles long and that is housing up to 3,000 nuclear weapons. So, we need to keep our defense system the exact same way as it is now.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Affirmative team, you have 1 minute to cross-examine this constructive, and your cross-examination time starts now.
I'd like to say, as we already proved earlier, even generals from the military and Department of Defense have proven that we don't need as many warheads as we have. And analysts at the Air War College actually estimate even less than that, up to only 300 would be needed to deter other countries. And on top of that, while China also has many nuclear weapons and a lot of other warheads as well, they spend roughly $160 billion a year, which is only about a fourth of what we spend. And they do fine deterring other countries, and they have just as few, if not less, problems than us. On top of that, the U.S. spends over 40% of the world's entire budget.
10 seconds remain.
Just in the U.S., which is more than the next 10 countries combined.
Well,
Thank you very much, Representatives Walsh and Lamboli. We now have 30 seconds. We now have 30 seconds for the affirmative team to prepare their first rebuttal. Affirmative team, your preparation time starts now. I would like to remind my representatives at this time, no new information will be presented into our debate. We will discuss only the facts we've already presented in our constructives, aka no more sources,
Okay.
unless you've already talked about them. No more sources unless you've already talked about them. You can't introduce any new sources.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Can they be new facts from missing sources?
Yes.
Let's hope these are.
And affirmative preparation time has now ended. At this moment, representatives will open the floor to a 2-minute rebuttal by our affirmative team. Have I such a rebuttal?
Yes.
Oh, we were sorry.
Yes. Representative Autry, you have 2 minutes and your time begins now.
I'd like to bring up the point that you made that you feel that no nation will attack America. When we look at our past, there have been plenty of attacks on America, including 9/11, Pearl Harbor, etc.
I wasn't saying that they won't attack America. I'm saying that we should keep our budget the same to keep our image the same so that we don't get attacked.
If you
Okay, but
Actually,
our budget
is-
our budget has increased since 9/11 for sure, but it hasn't increased dramatically since then. It's increased because of the economy and things like that. So back in 9/11, our budget was relatively the same as compared to the money that it would be today, and we were still attacked then. So.
if you look in the past, say the Cold War, the only reason that the communist Russians did not invade our soil is because we had so many weapons. That was the only thing that was keeping them at bay, was all of our nuclear weapons, all of our armies, was the only thing keeping them from invading, I don't know, it's just the East Coast maybe, or Florida from Cuba.
Right, but at the same time, you can only have so many nuclear weapons. You can't just have all these abundance of weapons because there's no use. Eventually, you're going to get to the point where you start using them all, the world's just going to go to crap anyway. What are you going to do? And then you're going to have leftover weapons laying around, all that money wasted. Along with that, you said that you thought that selling old technology, or you'd create new technology for the government, or for the military, and then you'd sell the old one. Wouldn't selling it, in fact, bring in revenue by itself, which would help pay for the new technology?
10 seconds remain.
Which would help to lower the amount that was spent on technology as well.
Yeah, but that's what's been previously established, so I don't.
Thank you, Representatives Pill and Autry. We will now take 30 seconds for the negative team to prepare their first rebuttal. Negative team, your preparation time starts now.
Josh wants to go.
Josh, what are you going to say?
Go back.
Cross my fingers.
What?
And our 30 seconds for negative preparation time have ended. I will now open the floor to a 2-minute rebuttal by the negative team. Have I such a rebuttal?
Yes.
Representative Roeder, the floor is yours. You may begin now.
Okay, you guys said earlier about the 1.5 or 1.1 million active Americans in the military. Then you wanted to cut that in half?
Or more.
We
yes.
wanted to cut spending in half. That doesn't necessarily mean the size of it. You can reduce spending without reducing the overall amount of people
But
in
then you
it
take
that
away
much.
from the people who are already in the military, risking
Yes,
their
but
lives
they're
every day
also
for us.
But there's
Sooner.
countries who only have 1.4 times as many active military people in that.
And
But
we
they're
spend
4
4
times as
times
big as
more.
us, so why is their military?
And we spend 4 times more than them on military, and they have a bigger military force on top of that.
Well, as you know, yes, China's bigger. Percentage-wise, yes, they have a smaller military, but they're not as imperialistic as we are. We have bases all over the world, making sure that countries like North Korea stay in check. Like as of now, we have battleships in their seas. We have bases and soldiers stationed in South Korea ready to fight if need be.
Why do we need to be involved in everything
Why?
everywhere else?
To protect our home soil.
but if we were never attacked,
Like-
if no other countries are going to attack us because our defense system is so great, then why do we need to worry about it?
But you said our defensive system was the same as it was at 9/11, and we still got attacked.
It means we spent the same amount.
Right.
That doesn't mean the system is the same, just because you spent the same amount of money.
America is playing the good guy. Don't you see? We are all over the world making
10
sure
seconds remain.
that when radical leaders come up like Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden, we are there to strike them down before they can do more bad than they should.
Thank you, Representative Lamboli. That ends our time for the second rebuttal. We'll now take 30 seconds for the affirmative team to prepare their second rebuttal. Your preparation time starts now.
John, it's just so funny, man.
10 seconds remain. Affirmative preparation time is now ended. I will open the floor to a 1-minute speech. Second rebuttal by the affirmative team. Do I have such a rebuttal?
Yes.
Representative Berryman, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so you guys stated that the military creates more jobs for people who cannot, to help the unemployment rate. But if we're already paying too much into it, then how are we supposed to continue creating jobs for people who can't?
I want to say that America, we're already in a lot of debt, as Lauren stated in the beginning, and it's only increasing and increasing. As Daniel said earlier, if military costs continue to rise at the current rate, they're going to make up the entire current defense budget by 2039. And that's just economically unsustainable. And if some
10 seconds.
form of reformation isn't done, and if something doesn't change over time, it's not going to be economically sustainable as a country.
Thank you very much, Representative Walsh. We are going to take 30 seconds for the negative team to prepare for their second rebuttal, and your preparation time starts now.
No, I don't want it.
10 seconds remain. Preparation time is now ended. I will open the floor to a 1-minute speech in negative rebuttal of the bill. Have I such a speech?
Yes, you do.
Representative Lamboli, your time starts now.
So you all are about, downsizing and stopping the debt from getting it bigger, but the real question is, how much is an American life worth to you? I mean, if I have to throw a couple thousands to the government to make new body armor so little Timmy can come see his father when he gets home from Afghanistan, I'm all for that.
People are still getting killed in Afghanistan, even with.
Well, obviously, people are always will be killed. We can't save everybody.
And
But
on top
no
of
matter how
that,
big the
by
city
bringing
is.
people home and saving money, we could take more people out of harm's way and have less people killed. On top of
or will us not being in conflict provoke more terrorist cells to attack us on our homeland of innocent people?
10 seconds.
Wouldn't it make sense for soldiers to die who knew what they were getting into instead of innocent people whose only crime was to live their lives in their country?
So, but our defense isn't protecting those citizens. It's for the army.
Thank you, Representatives Berryman and Lamboli. We will now take 30 seconds for the affirmative team to prepare their third and final rebuttal. Your preparation time starts now. Ten seconds remain. And that brings our preparation time to an end. Affirmative team, we will now have a 1-minute final rebuttal for the bill. Have I such a rebuttal?
Yes.
Representative Walsh, you may begin when you're ready.
I Jonah, your argument was about like what a life is worth, and as a country that it's worth spending that money to save those lives, correct?
Yep.
Well, on top of that, like I said earlier, it's pretty much proven that it's economically unsustainable over time. And if we don't do some sort of reformation, it'll be an economic collapse, and then once that collapses, we won't be able to spend anything on it, and then on top of that, that destroys more lives and makes it even harder to defend lives.
And also, Jonah, if you want to bring Timmy home, we want to bring Timmy home too, because we're trying to cut how many people we have in the military.
All I'm saying is that there will always be conflict, there will always be war, and if we must spend more
10 seconds.
to ensure more Americans come home after the war to see their families,
for something as simple as reducing our nuclear weapons, we don't need that many. We have more than enough.
We have more than enough, but
to
North
destroy
Korea
the
is still
entire...
making threats.
Yes, but we have more than enough. Okay.
Thank you very much, Representatives Walsh and Lamboli. We will now take 30 seconds for the negative team to prepare their third and final rebuttal. Your preparation time starts now. I know.
She's like, I want to meet your dad tonight. I'm like, you can't say that.
So happy you're being enriched by the debate around you.
Well, I just like watching fire.
All right, negative preparation time has ended. At this time, we will open the floor to a 1-minute negative rebuttal for this bill. Have I such a rebuttal? Representative Hovius, the floor is yours. You may begin when you're ready.
A question for you, Representative Perryman. You said that you believe that our defenses aren't protecting the people, it is protecting the Army, correct?
The research that we are doing is for the Army, which is protecting citizens, but...
So you do believe that our spending more money is protecting our citizens, not just the Army, which is not what you just
Yes,
said.
but we could also spend that money in other places, such as defense, instead of making nuclear warheads.
So your
We have
basic,
more than enough nukes to destroy.
your basic theory is that stay out of wars, bring everyone home, make more money for America.
No.
10 seconds remain.
If you
We
know,
think the money
America
is
was
being
most
spent wrongly.
economically profitable in the years of World War II. That's when we made
We are
our
in
most
war
money.
currently.
That's when
Are we economically profitable right now?
Not
We're
right now,
currently
but
in a conflict.
war
And are we
makes
economically
money.
Thank you very much, representatives. We'll close the floor. Let's have a